Hello there everyone, Stormy Strike here, and this is an unboxing of the Breyer second release in the Premier Club this year, Dundee. I believe that's how you say his name. So since I'm not in the Premier Club, I actually bought this guy second hand, and I did not get him directly from Breyer, but I bought him because I really liked him from what I've seen of pictures of him and stuff, and I've decided that I just really wanted to get him. Let's see if I can pull it out of here without it getting even more smashed. So here is his box. It is very smashed, which is sad, but oh well. Dundee 2018, the Premier Collection. There's a really pretty picture of the prototype for this model. And then on the sides, it's got some different pictures of him. This box is just like totally destroyed. It is so sad. But there's other pictures of him. There is the back, and this guy is supposed to be an Australian stock horse, and so it talks a little bit about the Australian stock horses. The design for this guy's color was done by Nicky Button. This guy was sculpted by the same artist who did Geronimo, who I actually did buy directly from Breyer, and I did a video on him way back when if you want to watch that. So let's go ahead and actually pull him out here. Then his certificate of authenticity is here. There's that really pretty picture of him. There is the inside. Now for Dundee. And I have not mentioned yet how much I actually paid for this guy. I believe it was around $220 it ended up being for him. And that actually makes him the most expensive Breyer I've paid for, because one that was my most expensive before was Leandro for $215. So this guy's technically the model I've spent the most money on. Let's take him out of his bag. Now we gotta get him out of his plastic and other bubble wrap. Now when I did purchase this guy, I was worried I was gonna regret buying him because I was kind of hasty in bidding on him on eBay and didn't really read the description of him well enough and found out that he has a couple little flaws here and there that I wish I would have known before I decided to bid on him. That was my own mistake. It had nothing to do with the seller. Anyway, we got his little face unwrapped, and let's unwrap his tail. And then here he is. He is very pretty. I'm already loving this new mold. I can't wait to see all the different colors that Breyer comes out on this guy. And I'm really sorry, by the way, for the weird lines of light. But here is this guy, and he does stand up very nicely. Part of the reason I really wanted Dundee is because of his coloring. I love dun horses, and I really like stock horses. I was like, yep, I'm just gonna have to get this guy because he's kind of everything I love. He is really pretty. I am sad about the little flaws here and there he has, the little factory flaws, which I will show better in a minute. But I'm not particularly planning on showing this guy anyway. I would like to show him, but I have plenty of other horses to show in his place, so it doesn't really matter too much to me. He is just a really gorgeous addition I wanted to have for my collection. Let's get some better close-ups of this guy. Here is his pretty face. He has some nicely painted brown eyes, and they are actually very pink in the corners of the eyes. Almost maybe a little too pink for my liking, but I do like it when Breyer gives a lot of color to their models' eyes. It really helps them pop. The markings on his face are really cool. I love the mapping. There's mapping on the marking on his face, on his cheek, right there on his neck. Just tons and tons of mapping going on, which I am a bit of a sucker for sometimes. I love how the marking extends underneath his face. He even has a couple little cute kissy spots on his nose. That one right there on his nose is really cool because it does have some mapping on it. I notice he does have some little factory flaws right there. I honestly don't really mind too much on regular run Breyers if they have little factory flaws here and there. But I will admit it is a little frustrating when it's on a model you pay a lot of money for. That's why I was a little upset at first, realizing that I may have regretted buying this model. But I think I like him enough that I don't really mind too much about the little factory flaws. And they aren't super major also, they're just little ones. I'm so used to looking for factory flaws that I see the tiniest little things. So like I notice that right away. But that might not even be that noticeable to a lot of people. It's just me being able to catch those things right away. And like he has a few shiny marks on his neck here, but again, you can't really see them unless you're really looking for those things. I like this nice little bit of shading on his neck here. Looks really pretty, and just these markings. I can't get over how beautiful these markings are. I know some people don't particularly like how they're mapped off, but I personally love this look of them for some reason. I think they look really cool. I just love these markings to death, honestly. This is what really sold me on wanting to get this guy. His paint job is interesting. I don't even know how to describe it really. It just looks very soft. Like all the shading and coloring on him, it just looks very soft is the best way I can describe it. A very nice soft paint job on this guy. He has some cool brands on him. On this shoulder, he has a BH brand in gray painted there. We'll go down to his legs. His legs have lots of dun barring because Breyer does love putting dun barring on their horses' legs. I like that the distances between these lines are kind of varied. Kind of makes it look a little bit more realistic in my opinion. He has a white sock on this leg. Even has a little Ernie spot. Again, that masking on the marking is really cool. I just realized this horse not have chestnuts. It doesn't look like he does. No, I am not seeing chestnuts on this guy. Which is interesting. I don't particularly mind because I always forget that horses have chestnuts, honestly. But that's interesting. Usually Breyer always has chestnuts on their horses. This coloring on this leg is really interesting. It's not just a solid color. It actually has quite a lot of shading going on. So I think that's pretty cool. The underside of this hoof is also sculpted, which is always a nice touch. It's painted a nice shaded gray. I noticed the other hooves on him are just flat, but you know, that's fine because you're not going to really see the bottom of those hooves anyway. You might see the bottom of this one though, so this one is sculpted. On this shoulder, he has a 28 branding painted on. He also has another little marking right there. On his body here, he has all these beautiful crazy markings on his belly. I absolutely love this. And really nicely masked off. I don't see any significant overspray on this guy. I just love all this mapping and detail on him. It's so pretty. It makes him look so unique and cool. Again, there are slight factory flaws I noticed on him right here. There's like 2 little black dots, and then there's a tiny like little scratch in his mold. You might not be able to see this in camera. I'm not saying that I don't love this horse just because he has a couple teeny little factory flaws. I do like him and I do not regret buying him because he is really gorgeous. I love the sculpt of this mane. It's super pretty. I love how it's flowing and all those pretty locks. I like the nice shading of this. Fortunately, it is kind of masked off a little roughly around his mane, but I do really like the coloring of it, and I like that his mane, forelock, and tail, they seem to be painted with a white base coat before they started painting it, so it's not the bare plastic like this and then they just painted over it. It looks like they actually had a coat of white paint first and then started painting over it, which gives it this really nice, soft look that I think really looks good on this guy. I'll go back down to this leg and we see more beautiful markings everywhere. And for some reason he has a tiny bit of glitter on one of his markings. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if you can even really see it, but he does have a tiny bit of glitter there, which I just find is funny. Then this leg barring right here looks really pretty with how it breaks away into this really nice white marking. So both his back legs have Ermie spots and hoof striping, which I just really like. And more leg barring on both back legs there. All I'm saying in this video is that I love his white markings. That is all I've been talking about. I just love them so much, and I love the mapping. It's so pretty. He also has a little VIN stamped on his foot, and it is for June 18, which means he was made in June of 2018. More of these absolutely gorgeous markings on the other side of his belly. I'm pretty sure they did a white base coat on his entire body before they started painting over him, because his body just looks like it has that nice white base coat on it. I like this nice shading done here on his haunches. That looks really nice. On his back he has a really interesting dorsal stripe because it has little stripes on it as well, which I don't recall Breyer really doing dorsal stripes like this before, which is kind of a fun, interesting change. You can see the little striping on that dorsal stripe. They're not super perfect, they're just airbrushed on and they look a tiny bit splattery in some areas from the airbrush, but I think it looks really cool regardless, and I like that it's something a little different. Then down here he has another tiny little factory flaw in the finish. It's just unavoidable for me to notice these things now. And then this was actually the one thing that I was really worried about when I realized after I won him that he had some flaws. It actually does not look nearly as bad as I thought it was going to in person. I thought it was like a huge, like, kind of divot in this whole area between his tail and his haunches, that the mold was just like really messed up. But in person, it's actually not bad at all. It's just a tiny bit of a mold flaw, and it's really not that big of a deal. But going down now to his tail, I love the sculpt of this tail as well. Really pretty flowing tail. There's some nice soft shading in it. I like that in some areas it looks a little darker, and in other areas it's a little bit lighter. Like the top of the tail and the very tip of the tail, they look a little bit lighter than the rest of the tail, which I think looks cool. Again, I love these beautiful markings on him. They're super cool. And he is a gelding, by the way. And then he has the Breyer stamp on the inside of his hind leg. So overall, I do really like this model. I love his coloring and his markings. That is by far one of my favorite things about this. But I also love this new sculpt. I love stock horses, and this sculpt is really nicely done. I love this dynamic pose. He has a really pretty face. I don't think there's anything about this sculpt that I don't like. He is just absolutely stunning. Just a really nice new mold. I'm very excited to see what other colors Breyer comes out with in this mold. This is probably going to end up being a mold I'm going to want a conga because it is just gorgeous. I hope you guys enjoyed this unboxing and review of Dundee. Now, since this is a brand new Breyer mold that just came out, I want you to let me know in the comments what colors you would like to see Breyer do in this mold in the future. I could see this guy being in so many pretty colors. I feel like even solid colors like black or bay would look really nice on this guy. But then also I could imagine him being in more flashy colors, like a blue roan would look really cool, I think, on him. But you guys let me know what kind of colors you think would look really good on this guy. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a super duper awesome day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone!